Hello there, welcome to the third video in our video playlist all about Theme E, religion, crime and punishment. This is all part of the Religious Studies GCSE. Our objectives today are to understand religious explanations for why people commit crimes and to evaluate whether these reasons excuse responsibility for their crimes. What do you need to know? You need to know the Bible teaches that humans are fallen and that they are prone to sinning. Many Christians would argue the main reasons for crime are the sinful nature and temptation. Now, in the previous lesson, I'll put a link to it, but we've looked at lots of different reasons for crime. Now, the GCSE writers for AQA, etc., they want you to know about these, especially need and greed and mental illness and hate, these reasons why people give the crimes have taken place. But for Christians who read the Bible, there's deeper reasons than these that are going on behind the scenes. In the book of Genesis, in the first book of the Bible, we read in Genesis 1, God creating this perfect world and finally making humanity in his own image, who are going to be stewards of the earth. They're told there's one rule in the Garden of Eden where they're placed, and it's that they cannot eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And if they eat from it, they will surely die. Now, I'm sure at this point in time with the GCSE, be familiar with Genesis 3, where Adam and Eve eat fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Now, there's lots of things that are going on at this point in time when they eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But one thing to focus in on is that they want to be like God. They're tempted by Satan, the serpent, who says your eyes will be open, you'll be like gods. And effectively what's going on here is Adam and Eve are saying, God, I don't want your rule in my life. I don't want you to tell me which trees I can and can't eat from. I don't want you saying what is good and evil. I want to say what's good and evil. And they ate fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil and thus became fallen in their nature. They stepped away from God's goodness and chose to live their own lives, bringing evil into the world. There was lots of consequences for this. Immediately they're banished, well, not immediately actually, when they're confronted with their sin, they are banished from the Garden of Eden and moved away from God's presence, although God's grace comes through and he clothes them. We can look about that in another video. But what happens at this point is that human nature from this point on is fallen. This event is called the fall, and from this point on, every human is born with a sinful nature. This is linked to the idea we've already looked about in a previous video on original sin. It means that every human now is born with a tendency to do the wrong thing. Every human has the sinful nature. So with this topic in mind, why do people commit crimes? People commit crimes because they have a sinful nature. They have a tendency to do the wrong thing. Now, as well as this, from the same story in Genesis 3, we get this idea of a tempter, Satan. Satan means the one who is opposed. It's the one who is against God and wants to work against God's goodness. Now, the way that Satan does this in the world, Christians believe, is he encourages humans to distrust God and distrust God's goodness. We see this in Genesis 3, where the serpent is trying to twist God's words and get Eve to doubt God's goodness. Did God really say you can't eat from this tree? You're not surely going to die. And that's what's happening with temptation, is that Satan is trying to persuade people not to trust in God's goodness and God's rule, and also to sin, to do evil acts that are wrong. Now, there is a heresy. Now, to be fair, we're going a bit beyond GCSE here, but it's good for you. There's a heresy in the Christian faith. That's a teaching that is wrong, a teaching about God that is wrong, called fatalism. This is the idea that all events are predetermined and inevitable, and so humans shouldn't be blamed for their sin. You could take these two ideas about the fallen nature, original sin and temptation, and go, well, humans shouldn't be responsible then. We can give humans, as a get out of jail free card. We shouldn't hold human beings to account for their sin because God's planned it and they're born with a human nature, but a sinful nature. But the Bible is clear, we own our sin. Humans are responsible for their own good deeds and bad deeds, and that everyone in the final days when Jesus comes back will be held to account for the good and the bad that they have done. Now, there is a key relationship here between sin and crime. That what we've just talked about already is that behind every crime is this idea of a sinful nature, people choosing to do the wrong thing. However, not everything sinful is illegal. So if we look at the 10 Commandments, number 3 is do not blaspheme. And in this country, you would not get arrested for using the name of God in vain. But also thinking about this, just because something is illegal, it doesn't mean it's necessarily sinful. As we've seen in our previous video, opposition to unjust laws. It might be that the law is unjust, and as Thomas Aquinas said, an unjust law is no law at all. So let's have a go now at some questions to check your understanding. Have a go at these right now. Pause the video, try them out, and then when you're ready, push play and listen to the answers and check your understanding. All right, let's look at the answers now. So what event from Genesis 3 is related to people committing crimes and how? The fall. The fall occurred, and now humans are born with a fall. Humans are fallen and they're born with a sinful nature. They're born with original sin. Who is Satan? Satan is the being who is opposed to God, and his role is to get people to distrust God and encourage them to sin. Why is it wrong to suggest that original sin means that we shouldn't be held to be responsible for our sins? Because this is a heresy. It's called fatalism. And the Bible is clear that we are responsible for our own actions, even though we are born with a sinful nature. Number 4, every time someone commits a crime, they are also committing a sin. This statement is correct because not every law is a good law. There's such a thing as an unjust law. And Thomas Aquinas said that an unjust law is no law at all. Then I don't know if you had a go at that, but do read Genesis 3 for yourself, make your own mind up about it, and have a think about what it teaches about sin. That brings us to the end of this session. Let's revisit our need to know. You need to know that the Bible teaches that humans are fallen and that they are prone to sinning. Many Christians would argue the main reasons for crime are the sinful nature and temptation from Satan. Bless you. Thank you for checking us out today. If you haven't yet, please do subscribe and like the video, and look out for more videos coming for this theme, other themes, and Christianity and Judaism too. Thank you so much.